Did you know that for this movie, Henry Cavill refused to take steroids to muscle up for the role? He also refused any digital touch-ups or enhancement to his body in his shirtless scenes. He said it would have been dishonest of him to use trickery while playing Superman, and he wanted to push his body to the limits to develop his physique into one that was worthy of the character. So I'm actually a pretty big fan of Man of Steel. I know this movie can be kind of controversial at times, can be dividing at times, and with the new Superman movie coming out very soon, a lot of people are talking about how Henry Cavill's not in it. Everyone's going back to Man of Steel because that was a really well made Superman movie. Of course, it does have its flaws, but I am a big fan of this movie. There are a lot of things in this movie that I like, but there are a few things I didn't like, but I'll save those for the end. The first thing I liked about this movie was the performances, specifically the performances of Henry Cavill as Superman, Kevin Costner as Jonathan Kent, and Michael Shannon as Zod. Starting off with Henry Cavill, Superman. A lot of people are a huge fan of Henry Cavill's performance and portrayal of Superman. I will say I would like to see a little more of his Clark Kent side because we don't really get to see any of that in this movie. It's all just like Superman focused, which was okay with me. Like that's an interesting approach, but I just like how Henry goes all in on the performance of Superman, all the aspects and characteristics that make Superman such a likable and classic character. Also, just the work he put in with building his body up, making himself really look, as ripped as possible, looking good in the suit. Just all the ideals that Superman stands for. I think Henry does a really great job of that, but it also just really packs a punch and it really gives us a great Superman. He's got a great presence on screen too. It's not just like the lines and the delivery and all the standing for justice and all that and an alien trying to protect the human race, but he's just got a great presence on screen as well. That shows, when he shows up, it means, he means business. Second performance, Kevin Costner as Jonathan Kent. Of course, everyone knows Jonathan Kent is a very crucial character in the story of Clark Kent. One scene that I actually always love seeing in this movie that really divided people is when Jonathan is taken by the tornado. He doesn't want Clark to intervene. Some people are like, oh, why did he do that? That's very illogical. That's very not Jonathan Kent. That's very not like Clark Kent Superman to do. Because most of us know that Jonathan Kent dies from a heart attack. I think the act of Jonathan Kent being willing to just protect his son in such an extreme way, I think is a really solid part to who Jonathan is. I really love that scene. I think it's a very emotional scene. I think it's a very integral scene. And then the final performance that I really like is Michael Shannon as Zod. Michael Shannon was a perfect cast in my opinion for Zod. I'm glad that Zod got a lot of screen time. I remember him in the Superman 2 movie. I enjoyed that performance as well, but I think we get a lot more of Zod, I believe, in this one than in the original Superman movies. And just the fanatic, like we get a fanatic. It's all focused on the Kryptonian villain here. There's no other bad guy in this movie except for Zod, and I like the laser focus there. I like Zach choosing to just focus on one villain when he could have added others as well, but he didn't. Then the relationship between Superman and Zod has always been an interesting one. Just the back and forth, the justification that Zod's always trying to make. And of course the big thing that people really hated about what happened to Zod was that Superman killed him. Now, I have no problem with that scene at all. I don't really understand why people got so mad about that scene because they seem to forget that I think they were confusing Batman's beliefs with Superman. I don't think Superman ever stated once that he wouldn't kill somebody. Batman was the one who had a no killing policy. Superman, I'm not sure. But if you look at the scene, he was literally doing it to save humans. Like Zod was so far gone that he had to do it. Like that was the only option. He was given the only option, and I'm pretty sure that's what Zod wanted him to do. And of course, goes to show Zod, like Zod's character, he's a complete psychopath. Like he really wants to see if Superman will go above and beyond for these people. That goes to my second thing I like about this movie is the action. plus a little cinematography. The action, I think, is really good, really solid. I know some of the scenes kind of went a little long, a little over the top at times, maybe a little Michael Bay influence there, a lot of explosions. This movie does a great job of just showing the sheer power of Superman going against Zod, but then we also get Superman going against some other Kryptonians as well. A little more into Kryptonian technology that we don't really get to see in any of the other Superman, at least the earlier Superman movies. We get to focus a little more on the world builder. That was pretty neat. But just like all the really cool technology that the Kryptonians rely on for so many different things, especially when adapting to a different climate. Just the hand-to-hand, just the hard punching, just the crazy just destruction of all these fight scenes. And then I want to give a little shout out to Zack Snyder. I know Zack Snyder is one of those directors where people either love him or they hate him. I think he's a good director. I think definitely his strongest talent, his strongest gift is cinematography, making the shots look as great as possible, as cinematic as possible. Just like some shots that just make your jaw drop. I mean, there are some really beautiful shots in this movie. The lighting, the color palette, color grading, all of that. Like, if you don't like Man of Steel for its story, I would say you probably like it because of how cinematic it looks and just how the colors are so deep and rich and a little dark too, but that's all in the eye of the beholder, that's all in the eye of the director. And I like how it does have a darker tone to it in terms of color grading. Just because this is a little darker Superman movie, so I'm okay. I love seeing all these shots in the movie that are just so well done. I just have to say, just hats off to Zack Snyder for making this movie look as cinematic as possible. And then the things I didn't like about this movie is I felt like the flashbacks in the movie really created a disjointed plot. Just the places they chose to add the flashbacks kind of take you out of the movie. It seems like they put them in random spots and then you're like jumping all over from timelines where Clark is young, he's a kid, then he's a teenager, then he's a full-grown adult. They're not in chronological order. They're like all over the place and you're kind of trying to follow along with these flashbacks, and I've never been a fan of that style of editing and that style of story and plot. It messes with the pace a lot. And then I do feel there are a couple moments in the movie where they're kind of rushed. This movie is built on the assumption that you know enough about Clark Kent, Superman, Lois Lane, Kryptonians, all of that, that you don't really need to have a whole lot of backstory. You don't really need to have a lot of build-up of characters, a build-up of romance, or any of that. Just, okay, it's gonna happen. And then that's it. Like, the relationship between Superman and Lois Lane in this movie was pretty rushed. We don't really get a good build-up of them. It's just like super quick moments here and there. Oh, saves Lois again and again and again. And then they kiss at the end. Well, they barely know each other. I mean, that scene always felt rushed to me, and I always felt like they're just throwing that in there to say, okay, well, we put the romance side of Superman in, okay, let's move on. But with all that being said, I'm still a big fan of Man of Steel. I'm very excited to see what James Gunn does for Superman in July. I really hope that movie does a great job. I really hope that movie is super successful and kickstarts the new DCU. But Man of Steel will always mean a lot to me. And, I am disappointed that Henry Cavill's not coming back, but I'm also willing to give another actor a chance at Superman. So for Man of Steel, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 Mudflaps. And remember, leave me a thumbs up. Drop in the comments below. Were you a fan of this movie or not, and why? See you soon.